Have you noticed that there's no good comedy movies anymore? Like, there might not even be any comedy movies anymore. I can't remember the last time I saw an advertisement for a comedy movie. The last comedy movie I saw was called The Boss, and it had Melissa McCarthy in it. It was absolutely awful. I mean, I love Melissa McCarthy. I think she's hilarious. I think she's ridiculous in her humor. But the movie fell flat. It was just so linear. Like, there was no depth to it. And it was just very basic. And I think it's because nobody's taking risks in humor anymore. Nobody's taking comedic risks. Like, look back on the days where comedy movies are now considered classics, right? Even like a movie like Idiocracy, or I don't know, I can't even think of one anymore. Like Harold and Kumar, even shows like Family Guy or American Dad. There's something that they all have in common. Oh, Borat, that was a good one. Any Borat movie. There's something that they all have in common, and they bring an air of offensiveness underneath of them. There's an air of offensiveness, and that's what comedy is. Comedy's supposed to push your limits on what's considered funny. Comedy is supposed to, make it so you're like, should I be laughing at that? It's hilarious, but should I actually be laughing at that? Because is that going to offend somebody? And that's like true comedy. That's the power of comedy. Obviously there's other ways to be comical, not just being offensive, but that's one of them. And when you avoid that specific part of comedy, comedy will always fall flat. It will always fall flat. If you have a movie that is supposed to be comical, that is written comically, and there's no offensiveness in there, your movie will fall flat. I mean, it's just how it is. When you're building a movie in a time where people are afraid of offending everybody and walking on eggshells, comedy is not going to exist anymore. I almost fell backwards on those stairs. That would have been funny. It would hurt, but it would be funny. That's comedy. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today, because there is a reason for this. There's a reason that the world right now has something I like to call unfunny syndrome. And yeah, I just made that shit up on the spot right there. That's what we do here at Treu Sovereignty. So welcome to Treu Sovereignty, where we're mastering our minds so we can reclaim our peace. And on this channel, we intertwine critical thinking with self-improvement, because you can't have one without the other. How do you expect to understand the world around you when you don't understand yourself? Your inner world reflects your outer world. So that's what I'm here to teach you. And when you come here, we have a great community here. Look in the comments. Really thoughtful, intelligent human beings who always have something intelligent to say. I love you guys. You are the blood, veins, and heart of this channel. I've got my regulars. You guys know who you are. And you're always here, always commenting, always interacting with my videos. And I gotta say, I love it. I appreciate it more than words could ever describe. So join us here. We're building a community. I get about 100 viewers on each video. Maybe a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less, sometimes it takes a few days to get it to 100. And that's beautiful. I love that because, I'm a very new YouTuber, obviously. So the fact that I get that consistently means that, somebody out there likes what I'm saying. But it would really, really help my channel if you view me on a consistent basis. If you are one of those 100 viewers that view me on a consistent basis, it would really help my channel if you engage, whether you're liking, whether you're commenting, sharing, even if you're just saying hi. I don't care what you comment down below, just say, hey, let me know you're watching. I want to see who's watching my videos. because you guys are fucking awesome. So I appreciate you being here either way. Obviously, if you're shy, you don't, you don't have to comment anything if you're shy, but there's no reason to be shy. This is a no judgment zone. This is a safe space, you guys. This is a safe space. So let me know what you're thinking down below. But beyond that, let's get into the video. So last week I did a video on maturity, and it was kind of like a test to see if you're actually mature. So I kind of want to relate today's video a little bit to maturity, but also intelligence. And so I did a little dive because I was curious. I was wondering, do maturity and intelligence correlate to humor in any way? I knew already that intelligence does correlate to having a good sense of humor. But then I was wondering, does maturity correlate to having a good sense of humor? Because I am sure that there are definitely like mature people out there who understand certain things about maturity and human behavior and the appropriate ways to behave, but they're also a little bit too much stickler and rigid in terms of what they consider to be funny, haha funny, because a lot of people think being mature means you can't have a childish or immature sense of humor, which is not correct at all in any way, shape, or form. And I actually think intelligence and maturity and humor are all correlated at least a little bit. And this is not like a formal study. I know that there's studies on intelligence relating to humor, but the maturity aspect of this is not necessarily scientific or psychological or in the DSM or whatever you want to call it. But it's something that I was thinking definitely correlates, because when you have maturity, you have to have a level of pure empathy. And that pure empathy helps you understand how to read a room, right? So you're able to make an entire room of people laugh. You're obviously able to read that room and figure out what's going to make them laugh. Like a comedian has to figure out he might have something written up, like a list of jokes, but he might change it based on the audience, He might be able to read that room and be able to say, well, this audience is not going to react well to this joke, so I'm not going to say that one. Or crowd work, when you're doing crowd work, you definitely got to be able to understand who you're talking to make them laugh, especially on the spot, because when you're doing crowd work, that's not stuff that you've already written. That's actually stuff that you're just pulling out of your ass just through asking somebody like what they do for a living or who they're with tonight, That's something you just make up on the spot. That's like, if you're good at that, if you're good at crowd work, you're at least incredibly humorous and maybe even quick-witted and intelligent. If that's your only shtick, though, is crowd work, you might not be the best comedian on the planet. Now, it's already known that you do have to be intelligent at some level to have a good sense of humor. And why is this? Because humor requires this complex, nuanced way of thinking. You need to know, especially when you're working with dark humor, you have to be able to understand two opposing truths, and you can't think in terms of black and white. Humor just requires an understanding of complex, nuanced topics, which correlate to having a higher IQ. Now, I'm not saying every comedian is a genius, and I'm not saying every genius is a comedian. But in some way, shape, or form, you do have to have a level of, I would say, either fairly average or slightly above average intelligence to be humorous, to have some sort of humor. You can't just be a bumbling idiot and be a comedian and go up on stage and make people laugh. You just can't. It's just not going to happen. Another thing, and again, this is not coming from a study, but it's something I've noticed in myself, in others, and of course they say a stereotype of comedians is you have to have a level of life pain, that life has put you through some sort of a ringer where now everything's a fucking joke. And you've turned life into a joke so you can cope with the fact that your life has been fairly dark. And that's something that I love. And you'll see that a little bit later on in the video what I mean by, you know, going through trials and tribulations in life and then kind of coming out on the end being, you know, the class clown, pretty much. And that's kind of how humorous people cope, is using their humor. And I noticed that in myself as well, where my childhood was a little dark. And so I kind of became the funny guy. You know, I was always the friend who was responsible for making people spit their drinks out or almost choke on their food. You know, not to toot my own horn or anything, but I was just always the kind of out there, crazy, funny person, kind of like Jim Carrey, where he's just always saying and doing something crazy, like making a weird face, and it lands. And that was kind of me. And even at times where I would just like talk, you know, it would make people laugh, and I'm just like, okay, I guess I'm the funny person. That's kind of when you know, like, you're funnier than you think you are, when you're making people laugh and you're not even trying, you're just talking. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but that's kind of how intelligence, maturity, and maybe having a hard life kind of relate to how somebody becomes very humorous, and not only becomes humorous, but knows how to appreciate humor. True humor. So as we all know, there's not just one type of intelligence, and there's not just one type of humor either, right? We all appreciate different types of humor, and we all possess different types of intelligence. So what types of intelligence are there? There's book smart. These people are actually comprehending what they're learning. They're not just intaking and spitting back out. And then there is street smarts and or common sense. Not everybody with a high IQ, which would be considered book smart, has common sense, which I think is so fucking hilarious. I consider myself street smart more than anything. I consider myself to be high on the spectrum of common sense. And then of course there's emotional intelligence, which in my opinion everybody should have. But emotional intelligence, or even social intelligence, like if you're really charming, if you really know how to manipulate people into getting them to do what you want, or if you're more on the friendly end of things and you're just really good at making friends, really good at finding dates, really good at getting people to like you, that's great for the like professional arena, things like that. So those are the different types of intelligence. Different types of humor would be like, my favorite is dark humor. I love dark humor. I love offensive humor. You know, is there ever a time where dark humor can cross a line for me? I would say yes and no. There are moments there are things that I will not joke about from my end. That's another like thing, like reading the room. You don't joke about certain things. And believe me, I've had my fair share. As a youngin', I have made some horrific jokes in front of other people and severely offended people. So it's kind of a learning process, right? Other types of humor are toilet humor. That's like probably my least favorite type of humor, although I will joke about farts and pooping and peeing all day long. Vomit or diarrhea, it's just gross. I don't want to see that. That's not my thing. Other types of humor are like quick-witted humor, where you can just say something and it's fucking hilarious and really fast, but also really intelligent, really clever type of humor. Random humor, which I would consider an example of that being like memes these days. Just very random. I dabble in a little bit of everything. My favorite being dark, but I dabble in a little bit of everything, and I think it's important to dabble in a little bit of these types of intelligences. Make sure you have a little bit of each. So I just always say, try to dabble in a little bit of everything. It's important. I think it's important. And, let's talk about why. One of my inspirations for making this video was that I saw this creator, and she makes a ton of different videos where she goes into these establishments. She's British. And she goes into these establishments, whether it's like a nail salon or a hair salon or the supermarket, or she's ordering food. And she tries to insert the word clit or clitoris. And I'll probably show a video.
6-inch, let me just have a clit look. 6-inch honey clit oat. 6-inch honey and clit oat. Sorry, clit. Clitoris, cheese, let me have a think, do I want cheese? Clit, please, clit, yeah. Cheese, clit, please. Just a little clit of cheese. Just a small clit of cheese, thank you. Are you gonna toast clit?
But she inserts the word clit or clitoris every chance that she gets. She'll just be like, that's clit. Hello, clitoris, hello. And it's just the funniest fucking thing I've ever seen, I swear to God. But one thing that surprised me was not her going into public and saying clitoris, surprisingly, shockingly. But what surprised me was the comments. Now, most of the comments are, of course, loving her. I mean, thank God. Most people who watch her absolutely love her, and the comments are hilarious as well. But there are definitely some people that are like, it's on every video too. Every video, I'll tag her. You can go look for yourself. There's always some fucking party pooper in the comments. I don't understand how this is funny. This is funny? How's this funny to anybody? This is actually really rude. You're being rude. Isn't this sexual harassment? God, you must be fun at parties. It's not that serious, people. And that's what I'm talking about. It's like people are just they got these sticks up their asses these days. It's like, where's that stick coming from in your ass? I go to your profile, you're a young woman or a young man, and you're acting like you're 80 years old. You're acting like you're 50, 60, and life has just gotten you down. Life just beating you down. And you're just mad at everybody, which I actually think it's the opposite. I think the world is being coddled, and people are not facing trials and tribulations. People are not facing hardships like they once have. And maybe they were coddled their entire childhood, where they were told, how to be politically correct, which we were. I remember being taught that in middle school and high school and, onward, especially in college, told what is politically correct, where you have to be careful, who you should treat better, like black people or minorities or gay people. Be careful around them. They're sensitive, they're fragile. We need to make safe spaces so people don't get hurt or offended or depressed or they cry or they get angry. We need to make sure that they feel very safe. It's like the world ain't safe. The world ain't safe. Okay, you can have a safe space in your university, but there ain't no safe space in the world, people. There ain't. I don't know any corporate offices that I've worked in that have safe spaces like universities did. University and elementary, middle, high school, grade school, they're supposed to reflect reality. They're supposed to reflect the real world. So as children, we grow up and we're a little bit desensitized, and we can handle it. We can handle the real world. What is actually happening in our schools is these people are being coddled to the point where it is the opposite of the real world. It's actually like they're being raised on these soft, cushy mattresses, but the real world is kind of like a maze of spikes. And they're going out into these maze of spikes and saying, this is not right. This is not correct. It should not be like this. This is offensive. This is making me sad. This is making me angry. And I should not be sad or angry. It's hurting me. These spikes are hurting me. How dare they? You know, the real world is cold and harsh, unforgiving, painful, torturous. And now our schools, especially university for whatever reason, is teaching people that when things get tough, to go hide and cry. Go hide and cry. Like a little baby. You know, external world is out of your control. You can't control what's going to happen to you. You can't control what people are going to treat you like. You can't control what people say to you. You have to have a mindset of stoicism and I don't give a fuck and I'm just going to move on with my life and not give it much thought. And if you don't have that mindset, life is going to get you down. Life is going to beat you into the ground. So that's where comedy's gone out the window, you know? I think people are more immature overall. I think people are less intelligent overall because in school, we're teaching our students to be offended instead of teaching them how to think critically for themselves. And I think we've been coddled. I think overall we've been coddled to the point where it's like, we think being offended is everybody else's fault. We think being the victim is a good thing. Like, we should be victims. I don't know. It's a very strange mentality that people have these days. I think a lot of it is younger millennials, Gen Z, and then holy hell, the next generation coming up is gonna be a tough one to deal with, folks. They're gonna be tough. I think the best mix of personality and the most attractive personality would be somebody who can be grounded and mature when the time calls for it, when it's warranted, where they have to step up and take responsibility, where they have to deal with a problem and just, you know, head down, get down to business and not throw a tantrum about it. Just do it. You know, hold down the fort. I think, and then on top of that, they're able to have a childlike sense of wonder, a childlike sense of humor. And that combo, I think, is just perfect. Like, someone that can solve their problems, their adult problems, and then turn around to their best friend and say poo poo pee pee and laugh and have a good time. I think that is a fantastic combination. Like someone who can take responsibility, accountability, stay calm and stoic in high pressure situations, and then turn around on top of all of that and just say diarrhea and make everybody laugh, you know? And I kind of wish I had mentioned it in my maturity video, because I didn't want to come off as like, you have to be mature in every fucking situation. Like, no, absolutely not. There's times where you can definitely be juvenile and have a good time and enjoy your fucking life. And to me, that's just the perfect combo. Read the room, read the moment, and when you know how to do those things, you're a fucking cool ass person. You are a fucking cool ass person, and people probably like you. The opposite is like someone who doesn't know how to take a joke. They take themselves way too seriously. Everything's fucking offensive. You have to walk on eggshells around them. You can't use a certain type of humor because that's offensive, or that's juvenile, or that's like the humor of a 12-year-old. Who the fuck cares? Like, shut up and just enjoy your fucking life, you fucking freak. Those are the people that probably have issues making friends. Those are the people who probably, you know, people don't really like, and they don't know why people don't like them. I wonder, you know. I've met many people like that. You can't joke about a lot of things around these types of people. Whether they used to be funny or they used to be okay with certain types of humor, they're no longer. They're no longer. To keep it like PC or whatever. And it's very freeing to have friends who share your humor. And I recommend that. I recommend that if your friends are offended by your humor, or you feel like you're being censored or walking on eggshells, get new fucking friends. Because it's just not fun feeling like you cannot be yourself around your group of friends. So that's the advice for this video. So let's bring this video to a close. In closing, I will say that I do believe humor, intelligence, maturity, and just living life is the perfect recipe for a good sense of humor. And I feel like we are severely lacking these days. Society is severely lacking in intelligence, maturity. They're coddled, so they're lacking in true hardships of life. And that has created this stale, black and white thinking, unfunny, boring society. They can't fucking joke about anything anymore. We can't fucking say anything or else it's gonna offend somebody. Ooh. So be prepared. It's gonna get worse. There's gonna be more censorship. There's gonna be more Karens. God knows the entire Gen Z, no hate to Gen Z, it's not everybody, but probably Gen Z and Gen Alpha are going to be like the worst of the worst Karens when they grow up. God, I feel sorry for them a little bit. But get ready for the Karens and the Kevins, because they are fucking coming. It's going to be more. It's going to be worse. The perfect recipe for a Karen and a Kevin are entitled, bratty, immature, unfunny human beings. That's what it is. That's all it is. But how can you combat this? Just keep being yourself. Keep being authentic. Don't ever be fake. Don't ever, out of fear of being liked, out of fear of being disliked, ostracized, abandoned, don't ever bend the knee to people trying to cancel you. You can't be canceled if you don't fucking apologize. You can't be canceled if you don't play their game. Just ignore them. Don't let people cancel you in whatever shape, way, shape, or form that they try to. Don't let it happen. Just ignore them. Be like, okay, you're weird. Thanks. No thanks. Don't be like, oh, I'm so sorry. No. And one last thing. Bring back the word retard. Say retard more. That might demonetize this video. I don't give a fuck. I'm not monetized yet, so. Say the word retard. And keep saying it, alright? And until next time, I'll see you in the next video.